If there's no show next week, it's because I won the lottery.
Oh, you got
All
one
right.
of those.
I had to listen when the jackpot hits. You always say you shouldn't play the Powerball, the Mega Millions, when everyone else is playing the Mega Millions because the number gets absurdly large. But that's the only time I play the Mega Millions.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, you might as well go big as the odds are terrible.
When it gets absurdly large and your chances get even smaller of winning, that's when Mark gets into the game.
There we go.
Quick pick. We're looking for, a couple good numbers. I thought I was going to do, I thought I was going to sit there and pick numbers. And then all I kept doing was picking like random Bears numbers. I was like, the Bears never win anything. They can't even win alternate helmet reveals.
You don't want to rely on that.
But. Yeah, I didn't want to rely on that. But actually, you know what? I lie. If I do win, then we're definitely doing a show next week because I'm quitting everything but this job.
There we go.
This job doesn't pay anyways. Yeah, this job doesn't pay anyways. We might as well keep this job going, and I'll just quit my other job.
Well, and we could then afford some outfits to match Aaron Rodgers walking into training camp today.
Con Air, baby.
Yeah. I've never seen Con Air. Have you seen Con Air?
Oh yeah, Con Air's classic. You should watch Con Air.
It looks like Nicolas Cage is pretty ripped in that movie. I'm not used to seeing a Nicolas Cage in that. I mean, it's not like he's like been fat or anything, and he's done a lot of action movies. It's
a wild movie, and Aaron Rodgers. You know what? I hate him so much, and I just I see that night. I couldn't help but think that's kind of badass.
It was funny. Yeah,
it was funny. Yeah. But I'm just also I'm enough already. Enough already. You know what I mean?
The guy knows what he's doing at all times.
I know he does.
Yeah. Well, training camp officially started for all 32 teams this week. Some teams arriving yesterday, but practices and team arrivals have all happened at least today here on a Tuesday when we record this show here. And so obviously some news and notes coming out of that, but also some news that we weren't able to touch on over the past few days, and we didn't have a show last week. And so the big one was first that Kyler Murray got that big contract, so we can talk about that and the very strange stipulation that came with it. We'll talk about the helmets that have been unveiled. 12 teams, I believe, are changing their helmets for this season. Talk about Lamar Jackson's been making the news over the past couple weeks. Kyle Shanahan throwing support behind Trey Lance, as well as Bill Belichick behind Mac Jones. And we got a couple other fun nuggets in there as well. But we'll start with that Kyler Murray contract, $230 million, 100 guaranteed, 160 guaranteed for injury. It's a 5-year extension of what he already had going on with his contract. Initial thoughts, I mean, obviously we had talked, you kind of have to sign a guy that's good at his position and has made you relevant, especially with the Cardinals, how much bad luck they've had. But on the flip side, it's not like you've won a Super Bowl with the guy or that even got you to one. It's a tough spot the Cardinals were in, but I think it was probably the right move all around for both sides here.
You know, when your guy comes up and your deal comes up, you have to look at the numbers. And I think a lot of this points that there was two things I got excited about. I said on my show on Saturday, I felt like, everyone wants to say who won the deal, who lost the deal, I think it's like just a draw. Like it's just the Cardinals kind of had to do it because without him and they've built their team around him, that they'd just be in, kind of shambles or rudderless. And Kyler is moody and it seems as though Kyler is the type of guy that now you'll get like a real solid 3-year commitment from him of working hard, trying to win games. And then he kind of seems like the guy in 3 years from now, if things go well, he'll be like, I want a new deal. You know what I mean? He just kind of gives off those vibes, with the Instagram unfollowing and clearing. So here's the thing. If you're the Cardinals, you get him in his athletic prime. You really are getting him for, 3 years. You're paying him all the money basically for the next 3 years while he's in his athletic prime. And while he is your number one pick, who you moved you totally upended your franchise to take him number one after you just taking a quarterback in the first round, fired coaches. I mean, you've committed to him, and now you're financially committing to him. And if you're Kyler, I mean, you're happy about the fact that you're getting guaranteed money that's bigger than Mahomes. You're getting your second highest paid annual quarterback. You feel like you've won in a lot of those ways. It's generational money. And if you're Kyler, you also feel like you can double dip. When this contract ends, if you're playing really well and you're still healthy, like there's no reason why he couldn't get another payday. So I think a lot of things lined up. But again, I don't love the idea of paying my quarterback who hasn't really won anything yet, that much money. I think if there's a winner in this deal, to me, it's Lamar Jackson. Like Lamar Jackson now looks at that deal and is going to say, all right, this is my new baseline. I need to make more than Kyler Murray. My resume is way better than Kyler Murray's. So I think if there's a winner in that sense, it's him. And I will say the Cardinals, I give them a lot of credit. They basically said to they made the stance for the rest of the NFL. Hey, if you want what the Browns did, then go sign with the Browns. We're not doing what the Browns did. We're not going to completely go AWOL here and guarantee everything. So if you want the crazy contract the Browns did, then you go sign with the Cleveland Browns. You're not going to be an Arizona Cardinal, or you're not going to be a insert team name here. So I think it's kind of a draw. I'm happy. I'm happy that Kyler's there. I think Kyler in a year from now could be the second best quarterback in the NFC with the Brady retirement. And God only knows what Rodgers is doing. I put him behind Stafford at this point, and Rodgers and Brady, but I don't really put him behind anyone else in the NFC. So, you feel like the Cardinals are in a really good chance to win a lot of games and make a deep run, and they have their guy locked up. So if that's what it costs to do that, then that's what you got to do.
Yeah, and obviously there will probably be some more details to come out of it. I'm sure there are parts of it that are a lot more team friendly than maybe what we initially know, but it does validate his choice to go to the NFL over MLB.
Absolutely.
For sure. I mean, the guy would still be in 3 years into a 6-year
arbitration and
arbitration, and then finally maybe hit free agency and get the big payday. He's already got one. He'll probably get a second one before that would have come up in Major League Baseball.
Can I ask you, what were your thoughts with the clause as far as the film studying?
Yeah.
Because now people are going to pick apart this contract and look for other little things like that in it, for sure.
That's very true. And whether or not what gets chosen to get leaked from the contract, I am curious to see kind of how that got out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically they mandated 4 hours of independent study away from the team each week during the game week. Now, I suppose it could be the case that this has been a clause in a lot of other contracts that we just never heard about. But it doesn't. I highly doubt that needed to be put in like Peyton Manning's clause. Like that guy lives, eats, and breathes.
Yeah, his clause is like, hey, once in a while, say hi to your wife. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like go golf at least once a week away from the facility or something.
Yeah.
But this is kind of what we knew about Kyler, right? So I thought the clause clearly they signed it. They agreed to it. So Kyler didn't have a problem with it ultimately. Was cool with doing it. But yeah, it obviously a little concerning. It does give validation to some of the reports about maybe him not being all about the team and stuff, and a little bit more about him. But at the end of the day, they were still willing to give him this money as long as he met this. 4 hours a week doesn't seem very much either. It's like an hour after practice each day. For the quarterback, that doesn't seem like too big of an ask.
It is weird.
So it's fair.
It's just weird. It's just like a weird.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing, and I think it does speak to. I don't know who would have leaked it. It looks bad for Kyler to leak it, right? Because then it's like,
I highly doubt his side.
But then also, to me, it looks bad for the Cardinals to leak it, because you're basically saying, listen, we're going to give this guy a ton of money, but kind of deep down, we don't really trust him. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So I don't know who leaked it. That's, to me, what's an interesting part. But we'll see. Overall, I'm happy that Kyler Murray. We don't have to deal with a Kyler Murray lockout, if that makes sense. Like I'm overall very happy that Kyler Murray is going to be with the Cardinals. He's playing football with the Cardinals. He is going to be in a really competitive division. And I'm really, really, really pumped that we don't have to deal with lockouts. Like, I'm done with all and the, you know, the drama around quarterback contracts. I'd rather quarterbacks just get paid. You move on. Like, how many years do we talk about Dak? Like, just pay him. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah, and it's such a fluid situation. It keeps moving. But this also kind of, helped the point of the Mahomes contract was not going to be, oh, this is the baseline for everyone.
Yeah, no one's
And even
getting
and then, because he's just that unique, right? And we knew, like, you can't end up paying every quarterback this. That's ridiculous. And then the Deshaun Watson contract came up, and it was like, wow, that's insane. Like, is that going to be the next thing? No, it's still, anomalies are anomalies for a reason, and so I
Yeah.
think we're gonna see the ebbs and flows of these contracts.
And
Allen will be the next one. Well, I mean,
Well,
he already
Allen,
got his big one, but
Allen was kind of in between, because remember, Allen was like,
yeah.
Mahomes got 10 years, Allen got like 8 years. And I think
that'll get reworked, I'm sure, if he goes and wins a Super Bowl.
for sure. But I think, and that's what's funny. Is like, oh my God, Kyler Murray's getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes. Remember, by the time Patrick Mahomes' contract is up, if we fully expect him to do the 10 years, and he'll probably get bonuses and all this stuff, the dude is going to get $500 million. Like, he's going to make that money because of the way they've structured it out. So he's going to end up making a lot more in his career, probably, than the Kylers and all these guys. But you're right. It is shocking to see $46.1 million for Kyler Murray, a guy who had a really rough end to his season. And to me, I would also put it as a warning. If you're out there and you're a young quarterback and your big goal is to get that big payday, you can lose at the end of the season, but how you lose may affect it. I think maybe Kyler could have gotten more, or there could have been different things in this contract if he had lost with a more maybe positive attitude, a little more Russell Wilson in his go Hawks, go Cards, as opposed to just sitting on the bench kind of pouty and being a little bit of a seemingly immature.
Yeah, so that kind of brings us to another quarterback, Lamar Jackson. He's been in the news for all the wrong reasons, really. He has gotten a lot of shade thrown his way by anonymous sources. But they have been league either executives or coaches. The latest coming from a defensive coordinator who said, and I quote, I don't give a shit if he wins 12 MVPs. He'll never be a number one quarterback. If he has to pass to win the game, they ain't winning the game. Now, the guy went on to say he's the number one athlete and he'll be a number one, he could be a top football player. But in terms of quarterback, look, I mean, it is what it is. These people are anonymous for a reason, right? If you're, especially if you're a NFL defensive coordinator, you would think they'd have some spine to at least put their face to these types of comments. So you take it with a grain of salt overall. It's only going to embolden Lamar Jackson.
Absolutely.
It is weird, though, because we talked about him being snubbed off the top 10 list not too long ago. This is just kind of the latest thing. It does seem like he gets underrated a lot, given the guy has an insane winning percentage, and he kind of got over that you can't win a playoff game hump. But it's mainly because he hasn't gone deep runs into the playoffs at this point. But yeah, I mean, he's a good quarterback. I think would you sign him to that Kyler deal?
Absolutely. I would absolutely sign him to the Kyler deal. And if you're Lamar, because he's his own negotiator, he should bring that deal to the table and say, if you're anything lower than 46.2, 165 million guaranteed for 5 years, I ain't signing it. You know what I mean? And I think it's totally fair. Listen, Kyler and Lamar has to be really careful here. Things can go. Look how quickly it went south for Baker Mayfield. A year ago today, Baker Mayfield turned down a $130 million contract from the Browns, like a 4-year, $130 million deal. Because it was only like 70 million guaranteed, and he wanted, to be paid like the next highest paid guy, right? And the Browns are basically saying, we think you're worth this, and we think we can win a lot of games with you at this money. And look how quickly now it's like, if he doesn't make the playoffs, his career as a starter might be over. Lamar has to walk this line really carefully. Now, Lamar, I think, would get a second shot for people to build around him differently. But all of a sudden, if he gets injured again this year without a contract, and he's kind of doing this bet on himself, or if he has a down year in a really tough AFC, a year from now, we could be talking about like, what is Lamar Jackson's future? Things can change that quickly. They really can. So I would advise Lamar Jackson, if a Kyler Murray deal of just take everything by just and add a little bit more, 165 million, 46.2 per year, guaranteed, do all that, and just be like, sign it, boom, get your money, go be a superstar like you are, and I have faith that you'll last that contract and maybe into the next one. But things can just turn quickly, and it would be a little bit of my warning to Lamar. Lamar's great. I would never say anything stupid like that defensive coordinator said about Lamar. I can't wait to watch him play football this year.
Yeah, I think he's going to ball out this year for sure. And it is about staying healthy, really. But he's dynamic, and look, I mean, the guy's made some incredible throws too. It's just like,
Yeah.
I feel like the pendulum has swung way too far to one side of saying like he's only a running quarterback. It's just not the case. Like he is a really talented thrower as well. He's not as good at throwing as he is at running. He's not elite at throwing yet. But I do think we've seen improvements, and he's still young. What is he? 27 years old,
Yeah.
26 years old. I mean, he's got time in this league as well. Speaking of another guy that's got time is Trey Lance, and Kyle Shanahan has fully backed him. So training camp opened today in terms of the media availability there for San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan said, quote, "We have moved on to Trey. We think Jimmy would have been traded if the surgery didn't happen, but it did have to happen." And he acknowledged that, they weren't angry with Jimmy for getting the surgery. They said he had to get it. Like, it's just how it shook out.
Yep.
And that they appreciate what he's done for them, but they've essentially moved on to Trey. So it's the first official statement that we've heard in this situation. They're all in on Trey. They're opening camp that way.
Yeah.
They do still have Jimmy. He's healthy, and we'll see what happens from there. But it's very likely that Jimmy's going to be traded early on, or at the very least, really early in the season itself. Should a
When
quarterback
something
go down
comes
elsewhere.
open, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? All this said to me was I'm glad. First off, I'm excited for Trey. I'm excited for the Niners and Niners fans. You do this now, you don't have to worry. There's no questions at training camp. There's zero question. You've been in training camps. You're a media guy, and it's, hey, coach, who split reps today? You get none of that.
Right.
It's Trey, all on Trey. And as a fan, here we go. Lawrence, Wilson, Jones, Fields, and Lance all are going to be starters day one for their teams in the second year. And that's what we want as fans. Now it's the judgment of figuring out who these guys are and which of these guys, can 1, 2, or 3 of them become like future megastars in this league and have that big second year leap. So it's exciting to see. And I'm happy for Trey to get that vote of confidence and not have to split the snaps and not have to worry about anything like that, because I think it's only going to help him in his growth. And listen, Lance, I think he's got a little bit of a longer leash because he's so raw, to where I think the Niners will say, even if his year goes rough, he'll have full confidence going into next year, a year from now at this time. Wilson, Fields, they're a little bit less or so. For Fields, it's a different regime. For Wilson, he's undersized and at times just his athleticism didn't pop like it did at the college level. Lawrence will have a guaranteed, but this time next year, there'll still be confidence in him that he's the starter and you got to move forward. And I think Mac Jones is going to be a better version of Kirk Cousins. So he'll be good enough to keep whatever New England wants to do. So it's interesting for all those second year quarterbacks, and I'm pumped that we just get him starting off the bat.
Yeah, you gotta move forward, especially with what they gave up to get him. Got to figure out what he's got and what he can bring to this team. Speaking of Trevor Lawrence, by the way,
make a quick prediction. Where do you think,
sure,
if you just had to pick one team, where do you think Jimmy is playing football this year? Like eventually?
I think it's going to be Seattle, because I just see that as being the place with the biggest need. And I think the only question mark, obviously, is that if we get into the season, then I think it's likely that doesn't happen. But I still think in this window of time here, they may try and work out a deal to get him. It makes the most sense to me. If I were to bet, that's the place he ends up. Um, Maybe New Orleans would be I think New Orleans would be the best spot for Jimmy. I just
Yeah.
don't think New Orleans is ready. Like, they've got Jameis. They felt good about what he did last year before he got hurt. Um, Taysom Hill's not going to be a quarterback there, but they also, had a rookie last year, and I don't know. I feel like New Orleans isn't going to be in on the sweepstakes, but I think that'd be the perfect spot for him to go. But yeah, Seattle's my vote.
I'm gonna take a flyer, and I'll predict Cleveland.
Okay. Okay. So are you anticipating an 8-game suspension, or are you still anticipating like a full year?
I'm anticipating minimum of 8. And I think that Cleveland will look at that and say, let's go get Jimmy. Jimmy can get us closer to 3 wins than anyone else in the market in that 8 games. Because if you're 3-5, if it is 8 games, which I think it should be more, I'm on the record for that. But if it is, even if it is in the line at 8 games, if you're Cleveland, you got to look at it and say, how can we win 3 of the first 5 then? We've got to win 3 of the first 5 to give ourselves a chance to be in that competition. So I think Jimmy's the best in the market, and they'll just do whatever they can at that point to get him. And I think they have assets enough to get him.
This is almost the Watson situation being drawn out is almost a benefit to the NFL here, because the longer it gets drawn out, the closer it is to the season. And if a bombshell gets dropped that it's 8 games or a season, then the appeals come in, and now all of a sudden we're already into the season,
and it's less of the story.
They're like, well, he's already going to be missing 3 games for appeals, however long that's going to take, and then we're going to end up So I think for them, they'd almost prefer this to be dragged out a little bit, because the appeal is going to come most likely in that form or fashion. So that'd be very interesting, though. I mean, Cleveland would be that'd be a great spot for him too, because they are set to win right now. I mean, that'd be a good chance.
He'd have a chance to prove then after that, however many games he started, to have a starting job again next year somewhere else.
Yeah, it's mainly the cost. Obviously, he's going to draw some sort of price tag, and I mean, we know the Browns are willing to pay, but are they willing to pay that much in a position they've already paid for? But it'll be interesting to see. Bill Belichick, speaking of last year's rookie quarterbacks, he said way more glowing things about Mac Jones today than I ever heard him say about Tom Brady.
It's very interesting.
He said they have seen, quote, dramatic improvement. And he also went on to reiterate that everyone can tell how well prepared Mac is coming into this training camp, and just spoke about how highly conditioned and how great he looks, and stressing the preparation and all of that, just really talking up the guy. I'm wondering if this is just Belichick reading how Mac Jones needs to be built up, whereas maybe he thought Tom needed to be taken a peg down, if he was feeding the Tom underdog thing, whereas Jones, he feels like who knows if there's a psychological component to this. It is interesting that he seemed way more, to have way more glowing statements about Mac Jones than ever with Tom in those 20 years. But
it's funny, and that part of it is funny, and that's to me the more interesting part. For Mac, I am excited to see. I mean, we've seen some pictures. He does look like he's taking his body, his body more seriously. Listen, does this mean they'll throw the ball 7 times against Buffalo when it's windy out? I hope, as opposed to 3.
Least,
with Mac, I think the biggest thing with Mac is, I think part of that might also just be, I think Bill is nervous about his offense. One of the things I think people are forgetting about, because I'm forgetting about it. So if I'm forgetting about it, I'm assuming the other average NFL fan is forgetting about it. Josh McDaniels isn't there anymore. And their offensive coaching staff right now is Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. So, I mean, listen, Belichick is probably the greatest coach of all time. But this could be disastrous. I mean, disastrous. They're not going to win the division. Buffalo is way better, and Josh Allen is at the peak of his powers. Miami has gotten better. Are they going to sweep Miami? I don't know. And the Jets, you'd think, have improved. They had a great draft, a nice offseason. Are they going to sweep the Jets? Well, probably. But, again, weird things can happen in division. So, I don't know. I'm not high on New England right now, and so maybe Belichick's trying to do something where he's building up Mac, knowing that his offense is going to struggle, but he doesn't want it to be falling on the quarterback.
Yeah, they need some help in New England for sure. And look, Mac's not a bad quarterback. I mean, he's certainly better than some of the alternatives throughout the league, but
Yeah.
you can't feel super great going into this year up against Josh Allen, who now appears to have taken over this division for the tenure of his run in his NFL career, unless something dramatic happens in Buffalo. On the Green Bay Packers front, Matt LaFleur and GM Brian Gutekunst,
Yeah.
under the radar, kind of got extended. We don't know the extent of this, but we do know that LaFleur was entering his fourth and final year with a fifth-year option. Now he gets what they're calling a long-term extension, as well as Gutekunst. So, despite the wall that they've been hitting in the postseason, they've been getting far. They've been getting to the championships. Something's working, and the Packers are saying we're confident with this regime going forward. It is crazy, Mark. 2 years ago, with all of the unproven nature of LaFleur at that time, what we knew about Rodgers being Rodgers and constantly threatening retirement and gonna leave. For you to have told me entering 2020 that come 2022, excuse me, Rodgers, LaFleur, and Gutekunst would all be locked up and ready to go for an extended period of time beyond 2024, I would not have believed you. I'd be like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. It didn't seem like that. And here we are. With the Packers have stability. Somehow they've reached that at this point, despite losing Devontae Adams, of course, which was a big loss.
What is the extent of the extension? I mean, that's the key.
I mean, they're calling it long term. You figure
Yeah.
it's got to be 3 years, right? I mean, minimum.
Well, at least, add plus what, they pick this year plus the fifth year. And if they added 3 years, you'd say another 5 years that, they look. And part of this is, I think the Packers saying to LaFleur and Gutekunst as well, listen, we don't know what's going to really happen with Aaron. We just don't. We know we signed him, but it's just
I mean, he certainly could leave after next year.
Yeah, it's unpredictable. So we want you guys to know, we as an organization feel comfortable you guys riding it out with Aaron, and also when and if Aaron leaves us, that we're going to give you a chance to see what your Packers organization looks like without Aaron Rodgers. So I think that's really what the organization was saying. And also, I mean, the Packers are not they are not a flippant franchise where they run through coaches and stuff like that. So their success, the Packers are an organization that loves regular season wins, loves NFC North titles, and they get a lot of those.
They do get a lot of those. Did you see the AJ Dillon incident real quick? It was kind of weird. He was at a soccer match, right?
Wasn't it at Lambeau? I think it's at Lambeau.
It was at Lambeau, yeah, because he was greeting with a lot of fans. I know, like he got clearance by one security guard to go and do a Lambeau leap at the soccer game, but I guess or match, I should say, excuse me. And some of the other security guards apparently were not filled in. They were trying to pull him back, and we're like, "Hey, dude, you're not allowed here. What the heck?" And
he's like,
"I don't know how you don't see as massive of a man as AJ Dillon in, and just figure that he's a Green Bay Packer." But they didn't know, and so it was kind of a scuffle, kind of funny. I mean, both sides it was nothing serious happened out of it, but it was just kind of a funny thing that happened there.
That's just it's a great summer storyline where you're like, oh, by the way, like Real Madrid is playing someone else at Lambeau, and you're like, what?
Yeah. You're like,
two
what's
European
going on?
Soccer powers playing at Lambeau. All right, I wouldn't have known about it unless there was AJ Dillon getting tackled. Like you're just like, oh,
exactly, yeah,
right.
Yeah. And it was interesting too because it's funny you mentioned that because we had the Charlotte FC played Chelsea last week at Bank of America Stadium, which is where Charlotte FC plays and where
friendlies
play. And they beat Chelsea, which was kind of crazy. It was in PKs and stuff, so it ended up being a kind of a wild match and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of these NFL stadiums are making themselves home to international games and things like that lately as well. We'll get to the Bears in a second. But just overall, Mark, in terms of the helmets. So a lot
Yeah.
of the teams, I'm going to find the exact number of teams,
It's
but
14
several
different.
teams.
It's not all
14.
season
It's
long.
14 teams have alternate helmets for this year. And some of them are really cool. Others are a little
Yeah.
bit underwhelming, I'd say. Was there one in particular that stood out to you? Like for me, the Bengals
The
white
Bengals is
helmets
sweet.
with the stripe,
Bengals
the
is sweet.
black stripe. That was really cool to me. Was anything else?
I like the
stand out to
throwbacks,
you?
like the old Giants one and the old
Yeah,
Falcons one coming back. Those are really cool. Here's my thing with the Bears. The Bears are just one of those teams where it's like, so I like it. I think it's kind of cool and it's fun. I will just say I'm not a big uniform stiffler guy. I watch football. I like the uniforms, whatever. I don't get too bent out of shape about the uniforms. But I will
Yeah, if you
say
guys haven't seen, it's the orange unis with the now
orange helmet.
all orange helmet with the C on the side.
I will say it's just like the Bears they're such a historic franchise. It kind of feels like this is silly. We're not the Jags. Do you need to do this? But I think it's fun and whatever. I'm not gonna get too bent out of shape. I like a lot more the throwback ones. I mean, I love that Falcons classic one, the Giants classic one. Even the Cowboys are bringing back like a retro helmet as well. I think those are cooler than a lot of these alternate helmets. But the Bengals all white ones are straight fire. I mean, that is just straight fire. And I think
Those
it's
are
going to
really
be,
cool.
like the Bears are doing it against Washington when Washington's doing it against the Bears. So like it's a Thursday night football game that's just going to be two historic franchises with like these ridiculous uniforms. And so you're like, all right. But when your teams are bad too, and you have a primetime game, listen, the teams are going to do this because it sells merchandise. And the NFL is going to keep letting them do this because they realize it's more revenue. But I just hope and prefer that the majority of the games I watch my team play football, I hope they're in their regular uniforms with regular helmets.
Yeah, I mean the blue helmets are classic.
2 or 3 games a year to do something, a throwback, an alternate, and then a color rush or something else. That's fun. I like it as a switch up, but for the most part, I want to see my team in their uniforms.
Yeah, I could go without seeing the Steelers Bumblebees ever again, to be quite
Yeah,
honest
those
with you.
were, and the Packers like literal like when they were like Packers.
Yeah. I mean, they literally had
The brown
brown
helmets.
pants and
Yeah,
just
those
ugly
are
tops with the
horrific.
yellow. It's
Those
terrible.
are absolutely.
Finally, before we head out, something fun came down. This has been something they keep track of, and we'll put a blurb out there every now and then. But the top jersey sales in the NFL, just ahead of training camp, they posted this. So obviously, it's showing the interest of people going into the regular season. The top selling NFL jerseys. I don't know. Have you seen it, Mark? Because if not, I mean, you could take a guess if you want.
I have not seen it.
Okay.
I have not seen it.
What do you think? They only gave the top 5 here, so that's all I have to go off of.
Top 5.
If you were to guess what the top 5 would be.
Well,
and maybe pick the number 1 spot, and then who you think the other 4 are, maybe in no particular order. That's hard to do, but
rookies get a lot of love on this because they're new and their jerseys
there's
are.
One rookie, believe it or not, one rookie in the top 5 here.
Okay. Well, if it's a rookie, well, hold on. I think the number 1's probably like it's got to be like Dak or someone like that. I'm going to go with Dak's in the top 5.
It's a quarterback in a new location.
Oh, Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
Dumb.
Number
Russell.
1.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's number 2.
Good for him.
Devontae Adams number 3. That kind of surprised me. Just like you don't see but then again, it's Vegas and
Raider Nation's huge too.
Raider Nation's really big. The lone rookie is Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, that makes
Kenny
sense.
Pickett coming in at number 4. It did surprise me a little bit, but then I was like, well, he was the only quarterback taken, and that position instantly garners interest, and it's a big brand.
And the Steelers are huge brand. They're like the Raiders. They're huge brand.
Yeah. Tom Brady comes in at number 5, so somehow Kenny Pickett beat out Tom Brady currently. But it's interesting. Tom Brady could do with sliding down a little bit, because I think once he made that announcement to the Bucs, he was number 1 for like the entire year.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, just an interesting nugget. Obviously, now that training camp has begun, we're going to have a lot of stories coming out over the coming weeks here. So
absolutely
be sure to stay tuned for all of that. But this was a good news notes, touch all the topics of the past couple weeks. And once we see kind of what these practices look like and how some of these reps are shaking out, we'll have a lot more to talk about with these quarterback competitions and just how these teams are shaping up.
Yeah.
Just a quick thing before we leave, no discussion really has to be had, but just to put it out there, Danny Amendola announced his retirement from the NFL. And then right before we got on today, Chris Carson announced his retirement. So Rashad Penny and rookie Kenneth Walker seem to be the two mainstays there in the Seattle backfield.
That's interesting.
Right now. So it is interesting. Chris Carson, though, had dealt with a lot of injuries
Mm-hmm.
in the past few years. So now it looks like Penny's going to get as much opportunity as they were hoping he would get just a few years ago. But that will do it for us here on the Football Lounge. As always, we're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Check us out there. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite shows. We are on there, so be sure to like, subscribe to us, all that good stuff. And until next time, everyone, stay safe and have fun watching some football.